Alvin Bragg's office responding to a letter from top House Republicans who are now demanding that Bragg testify in front of Congress. A spokesperson for Bragg tells Fox News Digital, "We will not be intimidated by attempts to undermine the justice process, nor will we let baseless accusations deter us from fairly applying the law." Joining me now is New York Congresswoman and member of the House Ways and Means Committee, Nicole Malliotakis. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. What do you make of all of this?
Well, what District Attorney Bragg is doing is completely inappropriate. Remember, the Department of Justice saw that there was no crime here. They did not pursue anything, and yet you have a local Manhattan district attorney who is trying to create some type of crime here, saying that there was a federal election law violation when the feds declined to prosecute anything. And so it's obviously an attempt to politicize the justice system, to weaponize the justice system, and that is exactly what congressional members are interested in knowing. Quite frankly, we know she won't do it, but Governor Hochul should be removing Alvin Bragg from office. If you look at what's happening in Manhattan, which you know, you're there right now, with crime soaring. This is an individual who reduced 50% of felonies to misdemeanors and then was able to convict only about less than a third of those. So crime is rampant in Manhattan, and he needs to focus on the actual violent criminal offenders who are repeat offenders because of the lack of prosecution from his office.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are horrible. Kaylee, in New York City, crime is obviously spiking. I could only imagine what Donald Trump will use with a mugshot, how he will use that mugshot and a shot of him in cuffs. It will be his campaign.
Absolutely. Congresswoman, I'm curious to hear from you what the House GOP's plan is moving forward in this, because Alvin Bragg, he is a Soros-funded DA, and theoretically it would be great if the House GOP could go in and remove every single Soros-funded DA in the country. But does Congress have the authority to challenge a local elected official in this matter?
Well, if he received federal funding, it's certainly something we can look into, whether they're using those federal funds to weaponize the system, to politicize the system. But I think really the idea here is to expose what these district attorneys are doing. I have a Prosecutors Must Prosecute Act, which actually exposes the records and the lack of prosecution coming from these offices that have created havoc all across the country. And the goal is to really show the constituency the lack of work that they're doing, because they can recall them in many instances where San Francisco does, where California has a state law to do so, or they can fire them in the next election. We see also the Missouri district attorney there that's in turmoil and potentially could be removed. In our case in New York, unfortunately, the only person that can remove Alvin Bragg is Governor Kathy Hochul, and we know she won't do that. So we hope that the people of Manhattan at least are paying attention, because there's other Democrats that they can put as the district attorney. It doesn't need to be someone who refuses to make our city safe and refuses to prosecute these repeat offenders with dozens and dozens of arrests that are back on our streets.
Well, I mean, doesn't the tone get set at the top? I mean, let's face it, Joe Biden and all these lunatic press conferences, the one when he had all the red behind him and he was slamming Republicans. Now the White House is slamming the so-called MAGA Republicans again and their budget proposal as a, quote, 5-alarm fire. The White House told Fox News Digital yesterday, apparently Republicans in the House value tax welfare for the rich, special interests, above all else. Last hour, I spoke with Jason Smith, the chairman of Ways and Means Committee. Here's what he said.
The appropriations process makes up roughly 29% of the entire spending. The other 71% is mandatory spending. Then think about all the executive orders that this administration has spent. Just last year alone, out of the 500-plus executive orders that Joe Biden created, 7 of those 500 cost more than $1 trillion. And that's with the T, Maria.
Wow.
Those are the things that we have to rein in.
So, Congressman, they're not reining it in. I guess what I'm saying to you is, yeah, we've got Alvin Bragg, we've got these other DAs across the country who are so progressive, but it starts at the top. And when you've got Joe Biden attacking what he's calling MAGA Republicans, they're not going to stop. He's setting the tone.
Yeah, look, and he lies to the American people. What he fails to tell everyone is what the Congressional Budget Office is telling us, which is deficit spending. Deficits will double in the next decade. We will see our interest payments triple over the next decade to about $1.5 trillion. It is completely unsustainable. What Republicans are saying, and it's a good thing, by the way, that we have the House, because we are the only line of defense to this incredibly disastrous budget, and also these omnibus bills that we are now able to stop. But what we're simply saying is we want to have pro-growth policies. Right now, the spending to GDP, the debt to GDP ratio is 120%. Over the next 30 years, that's going to be 220% if we do nothing. So we need to address this issue. We need permitting reform. We need regulation reform. We need to make sure that we are requiring things like a Social Security number for tax credits. We need to make sure that we have work requirements for programs, so that way people are not incentivized simply to stay home, but they are producing for this country and for our products that we desperately need, and addressing the labor shortage. There's so many things that we can be doing if we work together, and we're hopeful that the president will negotiate with our speaker.
Congresswoman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much. We'll be watching those